friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am playing with some Scrappy Tails goodies. You know I love these. This is the Festive Garland cover plate, and this cover plate comes packed with a bunch of other stamps and goodies. And that's what I'm going to play with today. Here I'm showing you some of the little pieces that come with this. These are extras. They can be used with that garland or without. Today I'm going to use them without, and I'm really excited to have these ornament dies included with these cover plates. Cover plates are pretty pricey, so when you invest in one, you really want to have a lot of ideas to play with it, and you really want to get your money's worth. So when they come packed with all these extra goodies, they're just well worth it. So I'm pulling out a couple of alphabet dies. I want to make the word joy with the ornament as the O. I was inspired by a card I saw in a magazine. I think it was Paper Crafting magazine. I can't remember the exact name of the magazine. And it's been in my head for a while. And as soon as I was browsing through my Scrappy Tails stamps, I realized I definitely want to use these. I was thinking maybe I would use some of those hot foil backgrounds. This little stamp set is the Countdown to Christmas Advent Calendar add-on, and it comes with a die that goes along with the Advent calendar, and I'm definitely going to use some from that. So here I'm just looking through my other ones, and you know I have to pull out the Assorted Christmas dies, and I've still got a whole bunch of other ones I haven't had time to play with, and this one I just keep pulling out over and over and over. This is an all winter stamp for me. Today I'm definitely going to use the holly though. So I decided that I cut out the J and the Y, die cut them out, and I decided I wanted them to be blue. So I pulled out some Distress Oxides in a whole bunch of different colors, and I just added some ink to the top of this cardstock in tumbled glass. And then I stuck it back in the piece that I took it out of and put the die over it, and then just traced around the inside and filled in the inside with, this is B95 Copic. So it's slightly darker than the tumbled glass, and it's going to help to give my J and my Y a little bit of dimension. And to give it even more dimension, I'm going to pull out a gray Copic and just trace down the right hand side of that J. So this one is W4, and that's going to give me a nice dark shadow there, so you can kind of see the effect that gives me. So I'm going to do the same thing to the Y, and I also, while I was like ink blending, I ink blended a whole bunch of panels. I used a variety of colors, and you can see all the different colors here: shaded lilac, spun sugar, cracked pistachio, scattered straw. I think I even had the velvet one in there. Like, I have a lot of different colors, and once I got the card done, I have to say, I wish I'd made those colors darker. So, like, next time I do something like this, I will definitely make those colors darker, and you'll see what I mean when I finish the card. So I pulled out the cracked pistachio and the evergreen bough and pine needles Distress Oxide, and just added 2 or 3 shades of green ink blending on top of these holly leaves, and I'm just trying to get some variation in color. I just feel like that looks more interesting, and it gives your project more depth and dimension. So I've pretty much played with all my inks here, and I don't want too much white showing through. I do want a little bit though. I kind of like the way that looks too, but I don't want it to look white. So a little hint of white is fine. I just have something very specific in my head, and so far I'm liking the way it's coming out. So I pulled out some Nuvo drops. I'm not even sure what this color is. It's almost like a raspberry red color, and I always practice on a piece of scrap paper because I don't use these every day, so I need to practice before I put it on my actual project. So I just put 3 little berries on each one of those. And then the trick for me is to put those aside. So I also actually ink blended that spun sugar onto a piece of white cardstock, and I did the same thing with the tumbled glass. So I have a blue panel that looks just like that, and I pulled the snowflake ornament stamp, or the snowflake stamp, out of the Countdown to Christmas Advent Calendar stamp set, and I actually inked this up in clear embossing ink, and then I put on some Nuvo copper penny or copper colored embossing powder, and I really like how it matches the copper foil that I have that I've used to cut out my J and Y, my ornaments. But the copper embossing powder was not a detail embossing powder, and you can see that I lost all the snowflake detail, but I love that I have hexagons there. So I like the shape, and I'm not completely unhappy with the fact that I can't see the snowflake detail, because I actually like the background that I have here. So I stamped those a whole bunch of times and in the clear ink, and then poured my embossing powder on and heat set them, and I like that matches the foil that I'm using. So luckily I had a foil that coordinates with an embossing powder that I had. So I'm just putting things together here, and I'm just going to glue the J, the ornament, and the Y onto my card base. And I feel like it just needs a little bit of something more. So as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about what else do I want to do here? What I really want is, I really want the J, the Y, and the ornament to be kind of shiny. So I'm trying to decide how I want to achieve that shiny effect. And there's lots of ways I could do that. I could do that with my Wink of Stella pen. I could do that with some clear transparent, glossy paste that I have. I could do that. And then I remember my crystal effects. I often forget about the crystal effects that I keep in my stash, but I'm thinking that that will be perfect. So that's what I actually decide to use. I just am making sure I don't have any excess glue. And I'm spritzing this with some water because I wanted to give the background just a little bit of interest, and it's very subtle, but I do like that detail. Whenever I ink blend with a Distress Oxide, I really like to spritz it because I like to just lift a little bit of that ink, and for a Christmas card you can kind of get almost a snowfall effect if you have a nice fine mist sprayer. So I add my holly leaves and my dried berries, and amazingly, I waited long enough for those to dry. And then I'm just going to put this crystal effects down. And it's been a while since I used it, probably at least 6 weeks. So I did have to use a pin to clear the opening there. And then I just went over the inside of the ornament. And you can see the color, the background color of that ornament is kind of disappearing. So I wish I'd used darker colors on that ornament background. But in the end, I like the way this comes out, really shiny. And I actually don't mind that you can't see a ton of color in it. You see a hint of pink, a hint of green, a hint of that creamy yellow. And I'm covering just the inked part of the Y. Notice that I also die cut the J and the Y in the copper foil, and I just offset the 2 pieces. So I just have like a little edge along each of the letters on the left hand side, and I like that. I feel like it's just subtle enough. So that has to dry overnight. Like there's no fooling around with the with that crystal effects. It needs some good drying time. So I actually created this tumbled glass panel and the smaller ornament, which also has a piece of that same ink blended background behind the ornament, and I added more holly with the berries. And then I cut the two panels down so they were all, the two panels I created were 4 by 5 1/4. I cut a mat for each one that was 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then I added them to a white card base. And you can see I've added a sentiment there. That Happy Christmas sentiment came from that Countdown to Christmas Advent calendar, and I'll just put them on white card bases, and I'm pretty happy with the way these came out. So I'm going to put links to all of these goodies below. Sabrina has just restocked her store, so she's got everything in stock for you, all ready to go. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.